have, what, 22 meetings?
Hopefully one. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Hopefully, the 14th may be our last meeting, and we'll tie everything up that night.
Great, thank you very much. All right, we will head right into student rep report, please.
Yeah, so we'll start with sports. Girls soccer unfortunately lost in the semifinal game versus Concord Christian on Monday. As for boys soccer, they also lost in their prelim game versus Moultonborough. Both teams had great seasons, so good job there. Cross country, for their state meet, girls team placed fifth. And Magnolia came in 20th individually. Boys qualified for the MOC's Meet of Champions for the first time since 2009, so congrats for that. And then Durham placed 13th at states individually. And then they had their last meet of the season at MOC's. Both girls and boys teams placed 17th overall. Next Tuesday, for all of fall sports, will be awards night. And then for clubs, I'll come back to SALT because we have some people that will like to talk about the leadership conference that they attended today at Timberlane High School. But for Net Zero, they had their first roadside cleanup of the year last Friday after school. It was a great turnout. Lots of people showed up, and a lot of trash was picked off the street after trick-or-treating, which can get messy. Interact, they're finishing up Send a Smile cards to just give out to, I forget where they're sending them, but it's basically you just make a card with a nice little message to like brighten someone's day who aren't feeling the best. Model UN had a conference last weekend. Chris Smith got an award. Wasn't clear what award he got, but congrats. There was a large turnout there,
one of
too.
the top performers, as I recall, yes.
There. National Honor Society had a blood drive last Tuesday. Members volunteered at the Exeter Breast Cancer Walk a few weekends ago. And then members also are volunteering to leaf rake yards around the community throughout the month of November. Student Council, trick or canning was a huge success. Students went all over town and collected a lot of canned goods. The whole team room was filled with cans. You could not open the door, so that was good. We're currently working on making a poster to put in the school that says, like you put the I in kind for National World Kindness Day, which is the 13th. And like for the I, that'll be you. So you can take a photo if you want.
Oh, neat.
Yep, pretty cute. And then we're also planning some ideas to show gratitude to the teachers for Thanksgiving. So like, maybe some big goods will be in the teacher's lounge. We'll see. Don't tell anyone. We have a winter drive.
No one's going to hear about this, don't worry.
We have a winter drive that we're planning on collecting warm clothes, and there will be boxes put in each English room. And then maybe a possible karaoke night in the new year to get some community outreach going. Other things that are happening, we have the improv show tomorrow at 7 in the CAF, then Nightmare Before Christmas. Looks pretty exciting from what I can see. Yesterday, the winter sports parent info night and meet the coach happened. And then we have the good news assemblies that have been going on. Shout out to Mr. Foreman. We've had 2 so far, and they've both been pretty successful. It's been great to celebrate other students' accomplishments from newly licensed drivers to graduation, post-grad plans. So speaking of some college commitments, Olivia Keith is enlisted into the Air Force. David Bond is also enlisted in the Air Force. Eva Moshe is attending school in Italy to study culinary, which is very exciting. Kira Supercott committed to St. A's for softball, and then I also committed to St. Michael's for soccer. And then going back up to Seoul, today 6 members attended a leadership conference over at Timberlane High School. Select members from other groups of other schools' athletic leadership teams work together and brainstorm solutions for problems that could arise. And they come up with ideas to boost school spirit on and off the field. I went last year and it was a great experience, but I asked the 6 people if anyone would want to come and talk about that, and Reagan and Annika said that they would like to talk about it. So.
Hi, I'm Annika Benson. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a member of the Student Athletic Leadership Team, or SALT. Today, me along with 5 other sophomores in SALT traveled to Timberlane High School for a student leadership conference. Other schools there besides us in Timberlane were Pinkerton, Bishop, Gearton, Co-Brown, Sanborn High School, making about a total of 50 kids. The talks were led by Deb and Trevor Hull, who ranged on topics of anxiety, leadership discussions, embracing who you are, recognizing self-worth, a short discussion in communications and how to effectively do so, and briefly discussing serious topics of drugs, underage drinking, what can result from that, and also talking of suicide, self-harm topics, and how to report them and who to report them to. Starting the day was an activity of possessing an index card with a simple question on it such as, what are the qualities you look for in a leader? What makes you a good person? And some more simple ones were thrown in, like how many siblings do you have? For almost the whole day in our activities, we couldn't work with the people we came with, and we had to leave our comfort zone by engaging with everyone else. The first activity, the index card activity, seemed like all the nerves and awkwardness left. After the first activity, it seemed like all the nerves and awkwardness left. Even though I don't remember everything about the people, I'll never forget how I felt knowing we were all there for a common goal of trying to learn to better ourselves and to share that knowledge to better our community. Courage was the underlying theme of the day. My favorite activity, and the activity I felt best showed how to show courage and fight off anxiety, along with brushing off the fear of what people will think of you, is an activity done where 2 pieces of tape were set up, and instead of walking to the other piece, you had to find a new way to get from one side to the other. The trick was that you could only go one at a time, meaning everyone else was watching, just you go. And if someone were to do an action to get to the other side, no one else could do it either. And if any were repeated, you had to start over with an original one. After the first few went, everyone else in line had to come up with more crazy and silly ways to get to the other side. This made others realize that everyone else was too busy focusing on themselves, that you could only do whatever you wanted and was acceptable and fun, which made the anxiety and fear of other people's opinions go away. This activity also sparked participation, as you don't want your way of getting to the other side being stolen. So everyone was trying to go as soon as they could and being bold rather than hiding in the back. Lastly, we talked about how to effectively communicate in 3 main concepts that go into communicating effectively. The first was what you say. The second is how you say it. And the third was how you present your body or your body language while presenting or talking to others. It all ties back to the underlying theme of courage, and to talk about what we'll take away as a school to progress as a community will be Reagan.
Hi, my name's Reagan. I just wanted to talk about a couple things we're trying to take away from that event and bring them here. At the end, we kind of just discussed with our peers that we did come with. So we just talked with Mr. Hayes and Mr. Neary about a couple ideas that we took away. So the first one is a big one, trying to improve game attendance. And one of the big problems with this is like when we have one game happening here, there's a swim practice at UNH or hockey practice in Portsmouth. So a big idea that we're trying to think is like, if we want other people to support us, we need to be supporting them. So that means like coming to the band concerts, coming to the chorus concerts, supporting the drama members, like coming to the improv shows. So we're trying to influence attendance at those things to influence attendance at our events, which is a big thing that we took away from today. And then another idea, which I'm still a little bit unsure about this one, didn't explain it very well, but it's called the first pitch, and we just want to kind of create more excitement and engage the community in our sports games. So this one would be in the spring with baseball or softball, and it would just be, I guess, a toss from a member of the community. So maybe like a police officer, someone maybe who works downtown in a restaurant, something like that. Just someone who's an active member of the community. Just throw the ball to the pitcher, and then the pitcher will do the first pitch. But it's just a way to engage the community. And then one more thing, or 2 more things actually. We want to create more energy in our life community meeting because we feel it's a little bit intimidating with so many people. We want to pitch in ideas, but it's just hard because there's so many people and there's so many people wanting to talk. So in order to set a high energy environment, we just want to like maybe play a game at the beginning, an icebreaker game, because we know of each other, but it's hard to get to know each other at a stronger level and feel comfortable sharing around each other. So we think maybe just playing like a little game at the beginning will just set a better vibe for the meeting. And the last one is setting a good example and being a good role model to not only athletes, but also the students in school. So not being not just setting a good role model on the field. So you can like be a good player on the field and you can have good sportsmanship on the field, but you also need to be getting good grades and participating actively in the classroom and just doing everything that a good student should be doing. So just setting a role model not only on the field, but also in the classroom. So those are like 4 big takeaways from today.
Very cool.
That's great. Thank you
Thank you.
both very
Thank
much
you.
for being here and for representing the school at Timberlane. Olivia, do you have anything else? Is that it?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll head right into the superintendent's
Super,
report.
thank you. And actually, one of the things that's really neat about Newmarket is there's such a high participation rate in sports that when you have our student athletes taking a role and leading the school, it really does make a big difference. So thank you for taking that role. It's really, really important, and we know that community is built by involvement, and all the things you just talked about are about building community, and that's what we need. So thank you for doing all that. So I did want to just share a few things. Obviously, November 5th was Election Day. I did have a chance to, obviously schools were closed, and the gym here was the site of the election. I'm pleased to report, Dave and his team really worked well to set things, working with the DPW to set things up. Andy obviously had to rearrange a little bit of our staff to make the building available for voting. I have to commend Chris Hawkins and Terry Littlefield for all the work they did behind the scenes. Voting was as smooth as could be. Anytime you invite 6,000 people to a party, you have to be ready to manage it, and they did a fantastic job. So it was a busy but very, very successful day. And just as a future thought, I did have some conversation with Steve Fournier around the possibility of our schedule, our school's calendar being more aligned with other voting days, such as state primary day. You may recall on September 11th, we had state voting, and it was at the town hall, and it was challenging to manage. So anyway, just something to think about for future reference. I did want to mention, obviously, teachers were working on that day, so there's a lot of really good stuff happening. At NES, they were engaged in parent conferences, so it was a great opportunity to get a lot of those parent conferences done, and I heard a lot of good things from teachers, that was a really productive day. Here at the junior senior high, they were actively getting themselves ready for an upcoming NEASC decennial visit in a couple of weeks, the 18th to 20th, right, Andy? 17th to 20th, that week. But they spent a big chunk of the day on that, so I think they're really, really in a great place. Obviously, I'd be remiss if I didn't say something about the election. Obviously, I sent out an email to staff last week just acknowledging that this may be the most divided time in our nation's history. No matter how things played out, we had to be ready to deal with that. And our goal at the school level is to just try to provide a safe environment for everybody. And we absolutely have to work to do that. I think the dust on what the election results are going to mean to public education is still up in the air. I was at a superintendent's meeting this morning in which there was a lot of discussion about the prospect of the Federal Department of Education not existing anymore, because that's one of the things that has been talked about in some of the agendas of the president-elect. And what would that mean to local schools? And immediately you go to, gee, we get a lot of grant funding from federal agencies, and how would that play out? So there's that. And one of the things that was also discussed is with the election in the legislature, they can't tell us yet what specific topics are going to be up, but they're expecting as many as 1,000 requests for legislative service for bills to be proposed that have an impact on public education. So in the coming months, we'll be processing an awful lot of information in terms of what does that mean and what are the proposed changes and all of that. So dust hasn't settled. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to mean, but I can say change is a-coming, and we just need to be ready to deal with it. On changing the subject, 3 weeks ago, people in Newmarket received a memo from the town manager about the new property reeval, and I think there was a lot of angst about it. I mean, the short of it is, the good news is the value of all the property in town went up by 70%. So the average house in Newmarket used to be $385,000, now it's $650,000. So if you're a homeowner and you got value in your house, that's awesome. The bad news is obviously you have to translate that into what does that mean in terms of tax rates and so forth. One of the things to keep in mind is the reeval has nothing to do with how much was appropriated. It's really about how the tax burden was distributed. So when you talk about averages, that's really not the whole story. So it's important that people understand that depending on what sector of the real estate market you're in, it can have a different impact. So for example, if you are a person that had the lower end of the market property values, your properties went up in value more than 70%. So probably you're getting a tax bill that's slightly higher than you would have gotten previously. One of the things I did want to acknowledge is in the memo that the town manager sent out, it analyzed, it gave the tax rate. Previously, this year's tax rate is $29.49. Under the newer valuation, it's $17.20. So it's a big drop in the rate. But again, as I said, the property value went up 70%. What was also communicated was how that all played out in the various sub-tax groups. So for example, it showed the county tax rate, it showed the town tax rate, it showed the local school tax rate, and it showed the state school tax rate. It's a little misleading to look at it that way, though, because in the end, it shows that the school part, the impact on the local homeowner went up. But the truth of the matter is, it is exactly what was projected when we proposed the budget last year, and it was voted by the taxpayers. We proposed a budget that went up by 4.3%. And if you look at what it's doing to the tax rate, there's a 4.3% increase. So it's important that people understand that. When you look at the town side of the equation, it's important to note that the town has revenues that we don't have. And so the town was able to impact their tax rate more by using revenues such as hospitality, rooms and meals taxes, and also tapping year-end fund balances that we don't have access to at the school district level. So it looks like there was a significantly different management of finances between the town and the school district. But the truth is, the school district's rate went up, appropriations went up 4.3, as did our tax rate. At the town level, appropriations went up 8.9%, but they actually got the rate down by putting more revenues towards the impact. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that, because I think it created maybe a false sense of what the school tax was actually doing. So any questions about that or thoughts?
Maybe that's colloquially known as buying down the tax rate, I think, right?
Yeah.
And something's not really sustainable necessarily.
Right. So basically, the town used about $700,000 of revenue to bring down their rate, which is great if you have it. But we obviously, as a school district, we budget very close to need. So at the end of the year, we don't have $700,000 to buy down the rate. So it's important that people understand that. So when you look at your bill and you say, wow, look what the school tax did, it's the whole picture that you need to look at. So.
I think we should continue our conversation with our partners over in the town council about what might be an inaccurate representation of the tax rate distribution or impact of the fiscal responsibility of our two entities on that, because we're one community, and that is underhanded. You don't have to say that, I'll say it. It's an underhanded demonstration of what actually the work of the board has done.
I mean, overall, what's happening for the average taxpayer in Newmarket is their rate is going down. Overall, the average is going down by a couple of $100. So overall, that's generally what's happening. But it does appear that the school is having a more negative impact based on the way it was presented. No question about it.
I hear what you're saying totally, and I agree with you 100%. I don't know if I'd characterize it as underhanded about what we've done as much as disingenuous about how they're managing their funding, because in essence, they're artificially buying down the rate which you can't sustainably do.
You can't do it, right? And I'm good on that body. That is like an accounting ploy that you get through
exactly.
1 or 2 years, and all of a sudden in a bad way.
There's going to be a spike,
But still, even
I agree.
Even if it was not meant to, it feels like a little bit like, look at them over there. It just doesn't feel like partnership. I just cannot not say that it doesn't feel like this partnership in a small community. Yeah, it's on me. I'm the one that said that. I will take whatever.
I don't disagree with you. It's just that if they decide to to use revenues to reduce the tax rate, and they present that, it's...
Right.
One other question. You said, is rooms and meals part of that? You said that?
Yeah.
So
they had about $200,000 additional rooms and meals tax, and then they $500,000 from the fund balance, or whatever they call it. I mean, in the end, it mitigated the tax impact for the whole town.
Right,
So just the itemization of it makes it look
Yeah.
like the school went up more than it did, when the truth is we did exactly what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we knew a state representative that might be able to sponsor legislation that would say rooms and meals tax should be distributed amongst the SAU and local municipality at an equal rate.
I would not be against that. It's
So,
an interesting idea.
Just final thing I wanted to mention, as much as I hate to bring it up, because the weather's been so wonderful, we are heading into this time of year when weather can be a factor. So on Friday, we will be doing a test notification of our school messaging system. So everybody be on the lookout at 5 p.m. on Friday. You should, if whatever email addresses, phone numbers you've given, you'll be getting dinged with an email, a text, or a voicemail just to test the system. If anybody out there doesn't get those messages and is like, gee, I'd like to be on that list, call your school office and say, hey, what do I need to do to get on the list? Or if it went to the wrong cell phone number or whatever you want, just contact, because as we head into the winter season, just to remind people, we're notifying people early in the morning. We try to make a call about school if there's going to be a cancellation by about 6 o'clock in the morning. And so just be aware that that's how we do it. Typically, when we make a decision, the primary thing we use is the formerly known as Blackboard, but it's now called Final Site. So if you get a text, an email, and a voicemail through that telling you about it. And then we put it on our website. And if you're just a person who likes to watch TV, it's on Channel 9. It's on the scrolling menu there. And that's all I have.
And you're committed to no snow this weekend.
No snow this weekend. I will not promise
that
no
on
snow
record.
for the winter. And I also cannot promise that we won't have an occasional snow day here or there.
Oh, my goodness. No, we use those words. All right, we are fortunate to have a lot of presentations tonight, including first up from the PTA, who's been gracious enough to come in and join us.
Hi there. I'm Megan Swanesang, parent of a fifth grader. I'd like to thank Lonnie for inviting us here tonight to let you know all of the amazing things that we are able to do through the PTA, through our fundraisers, and support our staff and our students. This year we started off in service day for the teachers. We provided lunch for over 100 staff members, catered for Nick's. They did an amazing job. The teachers were blown away and completely happy. Coming up, we have Book Fair on the week of November 18th. Family shopping night where people can come in and shop, buy books for Christmas, or just buy books for that. They have adult books, they have kid books, ranges. And during the book fair, each kid in the elementary school gets a free book through the PTA. So that's a great benefit, and the smiles on the kids, so when they walk out with a free book makes it all really worth it. We just kicked off our holiday prize calendar. You may have seen it on Facebook, or you may have somebody within NES that's already been like, hey, you want to buy a prize calendar? They are $10, and it gives you a chance to win 31 great prizes. You can win 31 times if your name is drawn 31 times. So it's our biggest fundraiser to kind of kick off the year, and we can provide field trips and grant teacher requests for additional supplies they may need for their classrooms. Any assemblies, it helps us book our ice skating rink for February, and just lots of great things happen with that beginning of the year money that we get from the holiday conference. I'm going to turn it over to Lizzie, sorry.
Hi, I'm Lizzie, and I'm the vice president of the PTA, and I have a couple of first graders and third grader. And I'm here to tell you about two other initiatives we're working on. So one is Newmarket has Heart, as Megan alluded to. That started back in the day when I taught at the middle school year. We had Newmarket has Heart, so I brought it over to the elementary school for third year. And the kids work on community service projects for the week within their class. They get to pick from a menu of different things, like making goodie baskets for the fire department, or collecting an item for the NHSBCA, helping out with Gadget and writing Gadget thank you notes, and Gadget comes in and thanks them. So lots of fun service projects. We also bring in an assembly during that week, all around kindness and community. And we have our ice skating kickoff party at Jackson's Landing, and the admission is canned goods for the food pantry. So that, we've started planning that. We locked in the dates of February 10th through the 14th. We also have a spirit week, so get ready to dress up. And we also just formed a committee for outdoor time and outdoor education. It's been a big push that we've been trying to have for a while. A lot of the parents at the elementary school are not content with the 20, 25 minutes once a day. So you'll be hearing from us. And we are looking to increase the time to 2 recesses per day, and also see if we can get closer to what some of the other local districts are doing with outdoor education as part of the curriculum in Newmarket. So that's some of the projects we're working on. What else have we done, Ellie?
I'm Ellie Robinson. I am the co-president along with Emily Burns, who couldn't make it tonight, and I have a 3rd grader and then a kindergartner next year. And one of our other big fundraisers is the Booster-a-thon that we do, which is such an exciting event. Last year we raised over $16,000 for the school, and that is our end of the year event. Usually happens end of May, and that allows us then to pay for anything that happens over the summer, anything that happens at the beginning of the year until we do our holiday calendar that brings in our next little bit. So like the 3rd grade field trip that they did recently to the Farm Museum, we were able to contribute to that. And the kids really love it too. They get to run to, last year we had to change it because of the weather. We had to go inside and it turned into this glow run. So it was bright and all this music playing. The kids just have a great time with it. And then the other thing is the kindergarten meetup. We do the weekend before school starts, and this year was our best one yet. We changed up kind of how we invited people. We used to put up signs in town and on Facebook. This year we printed out a flyer and had the office help us out and put it in the teacher letters. So when the kids got their letter telling them who their kindergarten teacher was, they also got an invitation in bright lime green, inviting them to the playground to come and meet some other friends. So they get a name tag, wristband that's color-coded to who their teacher is, and as do the parents, so they can meet other parents that are going to be involved in the student's class. And it was a really successful event this year, and people really like getting to meet, all the kids that they're going to be with on the first day when they can be feeling a bit nervous. And, that's pretty much it.
I happened to be walking by, and the attendance was amazing
It was
that day.
a big turnout
My wife
this
and I
year.
were like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was a really good turnout this year. So.
Having a big playground definitely helps.
Yes.
Sure, right.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything spaghetti-related happening in the near future at the elementary school, by chance?
That's not our
That's
thing.
not, you guys aren't involved in that at all? That's strictly the
Yeah,
school?
that's
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
November 17th,
But you're going to be
I
at the spaghetti supper, right?
I mean, eating spaghetti, yeah.
think. 17th, right?
It's on the 14th.
14th.
The 14th, the night of the 14th.
I'll meet from today.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We meet the 2nd Tuesday of every month, so
Okay.
come hang out with us. Sometimes there's candy. It's always fun.
Always.
And they're being a little bit modest. I just want to say, when Megan said, oh, and then the calendar fundraiser, she neglected to say that it's hours and hours of going to get all the prizes from places in town, and then putting the calendars together, copying all of the calendars, and then the stapling party to get them all.
Yeah, I went around town with another member of our PTA, collecting donations from local businesses. So we try to keep it all local. Restaurants, we have the Sons of American Legion donate cash. The Legion Auxiliary donates cash. We try to keep it local so that we support businesses in town that support us and our students and everything. And then we have to print everything, and each student gets a pack of 10 calendars, and they all have to be stapled and collated and then thrown in the teacher's mailboxes. So I spent 5.5 hours stapling the other night. It was great. I just turned Netflix on and just went down. Yes, the calendar is a huge legwork, but it's worth it. We made last year we made just over $14,000. So,
Wow.
And that's been consistent the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. If I look back, between 10 and 14,000. So it's about 1,400 tickets sold, and it's minimal expenses.
Yeah, definitely one of the things that is so special about the Newmarket community is the active parent involvement. So thank you for all. I mean, I'm just blown away by the list of all the things you have going on, and so thank you for that. And the playground was largely your effort too. All you guys started. All we had to do was finish the work. You guys did all the hard stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks.
All right, next we have another celebrity in our midst. Miss Lazarus is here to give a. Oh, absolutely. Give a presentation on a memorial bench they're proposing. She's proposing.
It's not warmer.
Okay, so the first thing I have to say, moving on. The first thing I have to say is we can't hear a single thing that's being said back there.
Oh,
So I'm assuming the PTA did a great job, that's why I applauded, because I go to your meetings. and it's-
it was on earlier.
Yeah, so
Oh, sorry
can't
about
hear a
that.
thing, so, just saying that, so.
Thank you.
So I'm here tonight, take this off. Just to, I think, Ms. Starr included some of the material in your school board packets. A dear friend, Mary Jane Sullivan, died, it'll be 10 years, January 1st. And she was the original kindergarten teacher, first hired, when we were a half-day kindergarten. And for those of you that experienced that joyousness of half-day kindergarten, Amy did. And I was a teacher of doing that half-day kindergarten. 2.5 hours of getting an entire day of kindergarten in and turning around and doing it again half an hour later. It was an amazing amount of work that she set up, and along with Carol Podier was one of the original, and another Carol who is no longer teaching in our district. And she spent 8 years fighting cancer. And it was amazing how many people in the district had no idea that she had cancer. She kept up her sunny personality, she kept teaching. She obviously did take time off for various surgeries and whatnot. And people just assumed she was off doing something. So I get emotional when I talk about this. And she obviously did not win her battle. She did amazing. She did actually a lot of experimental therapies through Dana-Farber, some of which are actually in use. So they didn't help her, but they've helped others. So when she passed, talked with the family, still friends with, and what can we do to honor Mary Jane and her work here? And the teachers that we set up a little committee. And we came up with, at that time we had a little small kindergarten playground along with the regular playground. And we came up with a bench. There was no bench, no place for anyone to sit and chat. And so I found a wonderful artist out of Rhode Island, a female artist, who between we talking, we came up with a great design. I think you have copies of it. And for those that I don't know if you can pull it up on your computer. Yep. There you go. So it is Mary Jane's 5 books that she always used while teaching. We still use all of them. So it is The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Rainbow Fish, Mouse Paint, Corduroy, and The Polar Express. And on the back it says, everything I needed to know in life I've learned in kindergarten. And on the bottom it says, in loving memory of Mary Jane Sullivan. So we did some fundraising. The comedian Justin McKinnon, I just said his name wrong. Sorry, Justin. He hosted a comedy special for us in the Mills. We raised close to $4,000, and so we were good to go. And then we, as Newmarket tends to do, switched superintendents, and the superintendent said, oh, no, we're going to be doing construction on the high school, so we're going to put it on hold because we're not sure what's going on. And then it was another construction project and another construction project, and then so we put it on hold and we put it on hold, and then it was, oh, we're going to be doing a playground, so we'll put it on hold. No, there's a pandemic, so we're going to put it on hold. And so now I'm putting my foot down and say, it's ready, we got to do it, because Mary Jane, it will be 10 years. And at this point, her daughter is married and just had her first son, who's 10 months old, Walker, and he's just absolutely adorable. No one in her family lives in Newmarket anymore, but they would love to come back and be here for the opening of it. And so cost of materials has increased dramatically, as everything has. So I had put all the, PTA had been holding the money, and then it turned out that was against the law for them to be holding the money for a private thing that wasn't related. So when the former PTA president and I had set up a little bank account, and so I just kept putting money in every time I got a stipend, I'd be like, ooh, here's $25, go there. And so it was up to $4,700 that I had raised, but now it became up to $7,700. So I had reached out to NCEP, and they were donating $1,500 of the $3,000 needed. And we're reaching out, the PTA is going to vote on it next Tuesday, whether they would do the other $1,500. If not, I'm going to knock on people's doors and hit up various people in the school. So, and this is one of my favorite pictures of Mary Jane. This is her with one of our students, Riley, and she's a sophomore in high school, a sophomore in college. This is her last full year when she was teaching full time and hadn't gotten sick yet. And so. So what I'm asking for from you tonight is your approval to have the bench made. And I worked with Dave Riley and Sean Fine and the other teachers, and we have the perfect placement for it on the new playground. As you walk around the front of the school and you head to that new playground, there's a spot just outside the playground, outside the curb that we're going to have that bench facing into the playground. But as you walk up to that playground, you'll see the back of the bench. So you'll see that in loving memory and everything I needed to know. So everyone can have a great place to sit and have a great view of that playground. So, all in favor? No.
So if I could summarize, what you are asking for is to be able to donate a bench that the fundraising has already occurred or will have occurred.
Right.
But when you have that, to donate the bench, and you're asking for approval of the board to accept that donation and install it where you and Dave have talked about it being an ideal place
Yes,
for it.
and the artist will do all the installation. She is a metalsmith, and she has, the bench will have spikes coming out of each of the leg, and they will go down. I can't remember, because we talked about this 7 years ago, about they're quite a depth that they will go down into cement footings that they will go down in. So it will be totally secure and won't budge. And then the actual metal itself, she does this special coating on it so it won't rust and it won't be sharp. And yeah, I can give you her name and go on her website. The amount of work she does is absolutely, I'm like, I would buy something for myself, but not until this is done. So yes, so that is, thank you, Todd, for clarifying. I am looking for you to accept the donation of a $7,700 item.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Just want to thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of knowing her, so I know how important this is, and it means a lot.
Oh, yeah, she also was the original founder of the name just flew out of my head, the competition jump rope. So Hot Shots was around, and was Nancy Miller and coaches would take the kids to Conway to do the contest. And people wanted to do more competition. Extreme Air, pop back in. And Nancy didn't want to do more, so Mary Jane and a couple other parents formed Extreme Air to do competition jump rope. And Extreme Air still continues on to this day, and they won national titles. They travel around.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's amazing. So she did all that as well. So she would concentrate this on not just children, her teaching. I could go on.
Thank you so much. Would the board entertain moving up approval?
So,
All right, I seek a motion to approve or to accept the donation of the memorial bench and having that work with Dave and the installation of it.
so moved.
We have a motion by Amy, a second by Phil. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Joanne.
Joanne.
All right, next up, someone who does almost as exciting presentations. Jana has the opportunity to talk about finance.
So then kids.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a lot to live up to. I just want to say that just sitting and watching and hearing tonight, just the presentations, what a great community, right? Great kids,
Yeah.
great initiatives. I think I have two things under the financial report area. So I will start off with the simplest of the two. There has been a new RSA enacted at the state level, RSA 32:5-D, rolls off the tongue nicely. In the 2024 legislative session, it was adopted, and this bill includes a new requirement to post revenues received from the state, either by allocation or grant, on the district's website within 30 days of receipt. So it took effect on September 24th. So I wanted to make you aware of the requirement, but we have gone back to July, and we've run monthly reports, and we have already posted them up on the website. We're generally going to be doing that about the end of the first week of each month, because we have some food service revenues that don't come in prior to the end of the month. We have to book them after. So I just wanted to let you know what they will be. What I'm going to do going forward is when I do my quarterlies, I'll include any revenues reports that you have not previously seen, but just be aware they will be posted on the website in advance of when you may see them. So what I've provided with you tonight is a sampling of the report so you can see what the format is. It's pretty basic. It just shows our budget, the range to date, the balance of what you can expect for the rest of the year based on what we know. Does anyone have any questions about that piece? Okay. Great. So going on, Q1 financials. We've been so involved with budget, it feels like Q1 came and went a long time ago to me. But so Q1 is always probably the easiest to present because we're just at the beginning of the year with revenues and expenditures. So it's presented in the same format you're accustomed to. We do a section on expenditures from the general fund, as well as revenues. So in the first quarter, we have some positive variances in all areas, which we expect because we're early in the year, meaning we haven't allocated all of our funding. And basically, we have $2 million that is yet to be allocated. That doesn't mean we are coming in with $2 million we don't need. It just means there are certain things that we have not yet arrived at. As far as revenues, again, there's not a whole lot of things to discuss because we're just starting to get our revenues in from the state and from food service and different things. So third and fourth quarter will be more engaging to look at that. As far as food service, you already know this from the end of the year presentation, but just to let you know, we ended the year with a positive food service fund balance of $154,000. Those funds are restricted and cannot be used to return to offset taxes, nor, unfortunately, I found out, can they be used to reduce student debt. So we have to use them to reinvest in our program. We have a plan a spend down plan. We're allowed to carry 3 operating months of reserve, and that's kind of our goal, to spend down to that point so that we'll still have some left for future years. And once that plan is developed, I will be filing it, and the state has approved it. I'll be bringing it to the board to show what we're going to do. Some of the ideas we have are providing some additional food opportunities for students, pop-up chef events where they come in and highlight a new food for the students in the cafeteria. We're going to be looking at doing some new equipment that allows us to present food in different ways to students. And we're going to be looking at making some structural improvements to some of our systems in the kitchen. So I will bring more back, but those are kind of our initial ideas. The impact fees, you'll see that later on, so I'm going to hold on that for now. The board has approved us to use impact fees for a particular project, and that will be coming up a little later. And then the bond proceeds, just as a reminder, on May 2nd, this board approved of us taking back those bond funds to use them as an offset to our ongoing principal payment of bond. So that bond fund has been closed. The amount has been taken in as a revenue, and our bond payment that will be offset will be going out in December. And then after that, it's just basically the reports that show you how all the numbers line up with the summaries. Does anyone have any questions about that tonight? Trying to make it brief. I know we
Nope,
have a
but
packed
you're-
agenda.
Thank you. Nope, we're good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you very much. Jana, did you want to come up and talk about impact fees? Or I can do it.
Okay, back again. So I just provided this memo to you as an informational, kind of a post. You've already approved the use of impact fees. We've talked about it multiple times. But at the time, we were waiting on final costs to come in, so we didn't have a tally for you. So on October 11th, I presented a request to the town council chair. That's how you are able to access your impact fees, with a request to provide $22,650.70 in our existing impact fees to offset the junior, senior high courtyard renovations. I don't know if you've had a chance to go out, but we now have some seating out there. People are using it so much more than they did before, and the feedback has been really good about how much more efficient and effective it is. So this is really just a follow-up to let you know.
Jana, can I ask you a question about impact fees?
Sure.
You said you have to request it from the town council, and I noticed that there's a range, for expiration date.
Yep.
If you don't request in that time frame,
You lose it.
you lose it.
And it's my understanding it will go back to the original party that paid the impact fee to the town. It's not like the town takes it in, they have to refund it to the individual
But why
person.
don't they just send it to, why doesn't it get to us first? Why do you have to request it? I don't understand that.
Well, it's based in statute. That's a really good question, but it's based in statute. And in order to have impact fees, they have to have a capital improvement plan. There are a whole
Right.
bunch of requirements that go along with it. And there are very specific purposes that meet the qualifications of the impact fee. So part of us sending our request to the town council is so that they can review what we did with it and make sure that it aligns with the purposes of what impact fees can be used for. They have to be used to expand the purpose or the footprint or
Right.
allow for additional capacity in your space. So they can't be used, for example, to repair a crumbling,
Right, yeah.
wall. It's really it's to make things bigger to allow for the impact of additional population. So I think that's why it's just a mechanism, kind of an
Just-
approval process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Anything else?
I think you're off the hook
Okay.
for a little while, at least this meeting. Thank you very much, Jana. Although, Mr. Riley, do you have some RFPs you could present to us?
Yes, I have two RFP recommendations. These are both projects that are part of our capital plan. So it's not me coming up with, hey, let's fix this. This is all spelled out in our plan. The first is to replace the gym divider curtain here in the high school. It is sad and old and in shape. We're not just replacing the curtain, we're replacing the metal rod that goes across the bottom because it's been caught on bleachers and things over the years that's been damaged. And then all the operating cables to also keep it safe. The one thing that's remaining in place is the motor that actually does the lifting because that's inspected annually and getting repaired recently, so that should be in good shape. I had 3 people come out and do the tour. Only 2 people decided to bid, and my recommendation is we go with Hussey Seating. Hussey Seating is currently the company that does all the repair, maintenance, and inspection when we put in our gym. So they check the basketball hoops, the bleachers, all the overhead equipment. They're very good to work with, too. The second RFP, this was a fun one, is to do exterior wall repairs here at the schools. If you look at the front of the old section of the high school, there's a concrete course that runs across that is chipping, is in bad shape. I found, if I remember correctly, 160-something either failing pieces of mortar, cracked bricks, holes in foundations. So this is to go around and just do all those repairs, recaulk expansion joints. Again, it's all spelled out in the capital plan. And my recommendation is Robinson Masonry. Or no, it isn't. It's Masonry Unlimited, sorry. We will lie to you. For an estimated cost of $91,500.
Great. Are there any questions on that?
So my question is, you're going with the lower bids, so but it's really so wildly off. For both of these, one is like half of the other one.
Well, it's funny because
What is causing that?
for the masonry, I had quite a few companies show up and do the walkthrough. Only 2 even decided to submit bids.
Any idea why they're so
Yeah, the first one's like,
double?
no, it's
But the-
triple.
But the gym divider is
The
so
gym
hard
is
because,
triple and
Yeah,
double, double.
yeah.
It just feels like,
For the gym divider, the 2 companies that bid, one, Hussey Seating, does the work. Triple Construction would be subcontracting that, and having another company do the work. I had a third company out and look at it, and they didn't want to deal with the disposal of other things, so they said, we just won't bid. So I think part of that is another level of profit on the work. As far as the masonry companies, Robinson Masonry, my understanding is a smaller company. I'm not saying they don't do great work, but the feedback I got on masonry, a number of contractors I called said, yeah, he put the chimney on my house, I like it so much. So they really very highly.
You got to imagine a gym divider curtain. I mean, that's about as bespoke equipment gets. So
There are very few companies, they're all in Chicago for some
it's a
reason.
niche industry, huh?
Yes, it really is.
it's like about 100 people in this state who buy that once every 30 years.
So I was literally looking at gym curtain manufacturers, calling, hey, who does your installs in New Hampshire? And calling those people. Really chasing people.
thank you very much. All right, we'll head right into budget memo, which we have a budget presentation notes as well as a review document.
Yeah, and I won't spend a bunch of time on it because we spent 4 hours together 2 weeks ago talking through all of this. But just to summarize for those at home.
Seems like yesterday.
It does. We went through a very, on October 17th, we went through a process of reviewing the proposed budget with you. Spoiler alert, the goal was 2%. We came in at 1.97%. So we hit the goal. The things that we made sure that were included in that, we made sure funding for all of our growth plan work that is going on is in there. We made sure the CIP that Dave is just giving us some recommendations on projects for is continued to be funded. Made sure salaries were competitive across the whole system. We're looking for ways to implement and support social emotional learning programs. And actually, you may recall that Erica McNeil announced at the budget hearing that we had just been granted the 5-year, $150,000 a year grant to really develop social learning curriculum and so forth across the district. And then also just, obviously, we always have the goal to be very responsible with the taxpayers' money. The bottom line, though, is that school budgets are largely personnel-driven, and more than 70% of our budget is personnel. Another 8 or 9% is bond debt. That does not leave, when you start setting a goal of 2%, it doesn't leave a lot of room to wiggle with. However, we have done a lot of creative work. I think it's important to know we've done a lot of things to be very efficient. Clearly, we just got a new custodial contract, which you've approved, that is going to save the district money. We're working to negotiate new health insurance that will hopefully be a relative gain. All of our facilities and IT staff, we're doing everything we can to make sure they're highly trained to keep costs in district. And then obviously, we continue to experience tremendous benefit, and actually the budget process was a good example of that, where our new financial software system gives us a level of detail that we have not had before, and it allows us to look at things differently. And I think we were able to find a lot of savings there. Bottom line, like I said, we came in with a 1.97% increase. Please keep in mind, for those listening at home, that this does not include a warrant article that will likely be presented in March for a new teacher contract. This is everything, so this covers everything except the cost of the new teacher's contract, which was an aggressive goal, but we're very proud of the fact that we got there. So in terms of timeline moving ahead, we will have a detailed budget narrative to share with the board at the next meeting on November 21st. If it's to your liking at that point, we would certainly look to have it be approved, because we then present it to the town budget committee on December 9th. Okay? And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any questions left after spending 4 hours talking about this.
questions? No? Thank you again for all your work and the administration, your team for all their work as well. All right, last presentation item we have is the Industrial Technology Program.
And you've got the clicker, don't you, Patty? So while Patty gets up, obviously we had one of the conversations we had at our workshop was sort of the future of the industrial arts space, which some of us toured before the meeting tonight to just take a look at it. Clearly, there are decisions that need to be made about that. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of give a fairly comprehensive review of the information that we are operating on. So I'm going to turn it over to Patty, who's going to kind of talk to us about the state requirements and certifications and all that kind of stuff.
And I'm going to try not to fall into this hole next to
Okay, all right, so first we thought we would start with just how are we defining what industrial technology is? And so how it's defined is the use of engineering and manufacturing to improve efficiency, safety, and profitability of industrial processes. And that definition is important because really the concept, what we've seen, this shift, is the concept of industrial technology. It's replaced our traditional, what we recall or have experienced, our traditional industrial arts classes across the country. So you're finding fewer, or if any, industrial arts class and shifting to what is called industrial technology. So what does that mean for New Hampshire? So as a result of that, our credentialing also had to change to meet the need of industrial technology. So that needed to align with the concept, like I just said, of industrial technologies. And really the focus was to support our career technical education programs, or CTE programs, like SST, for example. So what New Hampshire did, they broke down that credentialing, thinking of our CTE schools. So technology and engineering is a credential in our state, and about 100 plus or over 100 educators in our state hold that credential. Then there's another credential called architectural design. We could not find any educators when we were searching on our New Hampshire Department of Education that hold that credential.
Apparently, there's money to be made in architecture.
Apparently,
can't
yes.
make in teaching, I guess.
Yeah. For building construction, which is a very popular program at SST, there are 22 educators in the state that hold that credential. And then lastly, drafting and design technology, there are 11 that we could find. Now, let's bring that over to what does that mean for Newmarket Junior, Senior High School? We know that our state requirement for our graduates is they must have 20 credits. Industrial technology is not a required course for a student to graduate in the state of New Hampshire. However, half a credit in fine arts is required, and that's defined as visual arts, music, dance, and theater. Now we're going to shift to Newmarket High School. What are the credit requirements? And as you know, we've gone through a process over a year ago and kind of like aligning our credits for our students and what's needed. So for this class of 2025, our students will graduate with 26 credits. And then next year, 26 is 25 credits. And then 2027, 24 credits. So of course, if we're requiring fewer credits for our students to graduate, that would allow students fewer choices to make those personalized choices. So Andy now is going to give a historical perspective.
So this is a high school specific historical perspective starting in 2011, the 11-12 school year for rooms 145 and 146. 146 is the identified classic shop space. 145 I would categorize as a drafting attached classroom. So high school only from 11 on, we averaged 13 students per year in 4 different courses that were being taught in those 2 spaces. The extreme majority of those students enrolled every year were in courses designated as art courses, taught by someone who had an art credential. From 2011 through 2023, we had a total of 6 total students in what you would call a traditional woodworking course, identified as advanced woodworking here at Newmarket. So 6 kids over 15 years, 14 years. And you break down the actual courses that these kids were taking in that space. You have design creation there with 50 students in it, art and wood with a little over 100, and then intro to wood and design and creation with 17. Those 3 courses are identified that in their particular year as art courses. Those were not industrial technology courses. They were being awarded fine arts credits. The course description, the available curriculum I could find, all align those courses specifically around art. Things like drawing on wood, painting wood, some wood burning were kind of the classic examples of things that were happening in those courses, which, to be clear, are still happening in high school art courses. It just is part of units in our intro to art courses or some of our more advanced art courses. And last but not least is that advanced woodworking, which is, again, that's 6 students over that 14-year period. Patty mentioned SST. Whoops, one too many buttons. Sorry. Same time frame. Here is the SST enrollment specifically targeting building trades, which is their corollary to our classic woodworking. From 2011 to 2025, we've had 14 students enrolled in that course. It's 3.5 per year. You can see that it ebbs and flows a little bit, but we spike at 15, 16 up to 6. Right now, we're back up there. As a reminder, it's a 2-year program, so most of our juniors go in year 1, and they go for a morning session. And if they're interested in doing well academically and with the skills and the competencies that they need, they get invited back for year 2. And at the end of 2 years, they come out with all their competencies met. But we're averaging, like it says, 3.5 kids per year, split between that intro and that second course. Just as a reminder, some of the other non-wood-based hands-on offerings at SSD, automotive, culinary, and welding are their big 3. There are lots of other offerings, but in a classic hands-on sense, those are their 3 in addition to building trades that get kids out and really working with their hands. What this means from my perspective for a staffing consideration, based on the programming offerings and our needs, the absolute most I would need to support historical numbers and projected future numbers would be 1 section of 1 high school course elective. To give you a sense, we run every other day schedule. That's essentially 1 block of time every other day. We need someone to meet any potential projected high school enrollment needs. The traditional shop offerings, as Patty mentioned, can no longer count towards the fine arts. So we'll be asking kids to choose this as a classic elective. So it would be in competition with just about every other elective we have in every other content area, from PE to English and math. And so it doesn't get any type of standing that you have to take it. There's not a requirement, so it becomes a open competition for kids, so to speak. As Patty demonstrated, I didn't realize it was quite that bad. Credentialing of somebody to find this position is very, very challenging. And to be real honest with you, in order to make this position somewhat manageable to even entice somebody, we would have to include a middle school component to this. And in finding someone who's interested, certified, and ready to take on the challenge of teaching 11-year-olds various aspects of woodworking is a real liability piece and a real concern. When you get people in, you're working with small children. And I think that needs to be at the forefront of the conversation. So this isn't just high school kids who are interested in building stuff. I think if we were going to go down this road and really find an employee for this, they would have to, in order to get somebody, have to be willing to work with our middle school population on a daily basis.
And that would be the majority of the role?
That would be the
the
extreme majority of the day would be covered in teaching middle school students. And as a reminder, in our current structure, we have middle school kids go through a 45-day UA rotation, 45 consecutive days for 55 minutes a block. It's a space that needs prep time to get going and prep time to cool down or clean up, kind of like an art. In some preliminary conversations with some of our middle school art folks and people who kind of model this, they lose anywhere on a good day 10 minutes, on a bad day 15 minutes of time, depending on the scope and sequence of the work going on to get kids the materials and make sure everything's good. And do the project, and then, okay, it's time to clean up all the clay or wash the paintbrushes.
And these aren't toy machines. I mean, must be a ton of safety training that has to take place.
Yeah, yeah.
45 days of 15
yeah,
minutes.
Yeah.
How much actual?
Yes, looking at some of the old curriculum on this, there were when the curriculum was every other day for 85 minutes, and on that schedule, the prior instructor was still allocating 3.5 weeks of safety recommendations for high school kids. So 3.5 weeks, every other, you meet 2.5 times a day, and it's the time commitment there. You very quickly start to do the math here, and even if you're not as safety conscious, which obviously I would not want to support or recommend, you lose a lot of time. And if the goal is to get kids on the equipment and make things happen, becomes a major, major challenge at both the middle and high school level.
So you're really only getting kids there by forcing them to have to take some sort of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
in realistic, kids aren't going to choose to say.
No historical data shows students were wildly interested in choosing this as a course option. Prior to, the only reason this course existed was we were requiring middle school students to take it. And even then, if you really dive into the data, the 6th grade average course size, the 7th grade average course size, and the 8th grade average course size, you assume the population, you track them over 3 years, and this particular course goes down somewhere between 10 and 12% every year. So kids were actively finding ways, even though they weren't quote unquote allowed to avoid this course.
And we had a kid who was in middle school at the time and had to go through the course. I can attest that it wasn't his favorite course.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close.
I had a couple of cutting boards from that course.
Did you? Really?
They're still
Yes,
sitting
I
there if you
still
want
have
some.
them.
Yeah.
And I have a nice wooden spoon still.
I don't think they ever got that far.
When my sons went through this in 6th grade, the students who took it first quarter reached the point of identifying a piece of wood that they liked. Second quarter, they actually started to shape the piece of wood a little bit before they ran out of time.
Yep.
Third quarter, they maybe got it in the right shape. And then the lucky kids in the 4th quarter actually sort of got to sand it and take it home at the end of the school year. A quarter is not enough time for a middle school wood shop class. It just isn't.
Yep. And obviously, there's only so many minutes in the day, and you start to have competing interests. Everything can't have 3 hours of time every day. We have obviously time-based constraints that we have to deal with. And currently, that's our model. We obviously at the 8th grade level, we allow choice for students. But again, I would argue based on historical numbers, when you do offer choice, even at the high school level, choices were not being made to enroll in this type of course.
I think the issue I struggled a little bit, and I think Lonnie articulated during our budget workshop, is that there's a nostalgia to this, right? To that course, and you did it in high school and all that, and yeah, it's just not the same. Times are.
I can give you a few examples of things that fall into that nostalgia. High school dances, what people think and remember and you see on TV and the reality.
And I think to the point you were making earlier, though, Andy, the smaller projects that are wood-based in art are still happening. So kids are having the opportunity to do wood burning.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily require a fully equipped shop to do those things. In fact, we're not even using a shop for those. That's taking place elsewhere. I did want to just go back. Can you go back to the slide that Pat was on with the certifications, just real quick, right there. One of the things I think it's worthy of noting that technology and engineering, that's where most of the people they now call it tech ed, that's where they're getting their credentials. And those are the people who are, the tech integrators, they're doing the robotics, that's where the vast majority of the people coming out of education programs are coming from. If you look at building construction and drafting and design, those are primarily CTE instructors, and they're coming out of industry, and it's a full-time, it's a transition. I know a number of people who've made that transition, and they spent 25 years in private sector, and they're tired of the schedule that it involves, and they transition to a teaching role, but they're not necessarily people who are going to come and do a part-time role in a middle school kind of structure. They want to do things like building trades at a CTE center. And I think that when we kind of go back in time to summer of 2023, I believe it was, when our previous shop or industrial technologies teacher left, who, by the way, we were blessed that a staff member had dual certifications, art and the industrial technology realm.
Yeah.
It allowed us to morph that position back and forth, like, oh, more kids want art? Great, we'll just offer more art. Oh, we got kids who want to do something that would be in that woodworking realm? Okay, we can do that. That being said, the lion's share of the kids shifted to the art world, and only a very small, as Andy pointed out, 6 in a period of a dozen years that actually did what you would call a real woodworking class that involved the full utilization of a shop space. And I think that's where you get into the questions about what's the best use of the space and what can we do to maximize its benefit to our kids, because we have tons of kids that are interested in robotics and STEM and all those kind of things. In fact, could you talk briefly about the STEM program that has taken off sort of to fill that unified arts block?
Sure. So at the middle school level, one of the 45-day UA rotations, Steph Curry teaches a phenomenal STEAM course where we have kids going everything from robotics to wiring to programming. And thanks to Patty, we are going to be beginning to roll out some of the classic Lego computer programming and robotics. Steph at the middle school level is also working with Tiffany Brand, who teaches computer science at the high school level, to really hone in on some pathway programming to get kids at that sophomore, junior year to really roll into the Java programming and some of the advanced coursework that we're going to be offering through her programming. What Tiffany found was it was a heavy lift to get kids off the ground as ninth graders to, hey, this is your first time ever seeing a coding thing. Working with Stephanie, we're getting a head start on that by introducing those concepts and getting kids ready on them as sixth graders. So I can see a really clear pathway where we're going to have kids in that classic computer science programming world in 3 to 4 years at that sophomore, junior level that started as sixth graders in this UA STEAM rotation. And Steph does great work and has been really embracing the middle school philosophy. You go by her room, and kids are really, it's hands-on. There's a lot of running around. There's a lot of really engaging work. She's got some videos. I've already talked to her. She'd be more than happy to come talk to you all about some of the things that she's got going on in her classroom. Kids love it. It's a great time.
And also, could you speak to the elementary school component as well?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to Laura Bascom, our elementary technology teacher. And I was able to sit with Laura and just kind of talk about the scope and sequence of K-5. She's teaching coding. Like, kindergartners don't really know that they're coding. That's the elements that she's teaching to our K-2 students. So working with her to expand that program for our first and second graders with kind of that design, build, coding, scope and sequence, so that by the time the kids reach, our fifth graders are really doing some amazing robotic work, but so that when they reach sixth grade, we get to continue that path. So having Laura and Stephanie actually work together to look at that scope and sequence K-8 is so important, and it's exciting for our students too. It's like, would be really neat to just really build a first, and like a larger first team that goes and competes as well.
When I think of robotics, I think of, this really advanced thing. These kids have to know electronics and coding and all that. But I think there's probably a component of, not in a pejorative way, but like wrench turning and wiring and sawing, and that might get some kids to realize they want to go to SST and to delve into some of those other arts.
Yeah. The robotics after-school room is incredibly eclectic in terms of the type of kid, the age of the kid, what they're doing. Some kids are in there because they want to be in charge of where and how the sticker goes on the robot, because it's really important. Other kids are looking at wiring manuals and don't care about a sticker. And I know Becky and Tiffany do some after-school makers club for middle school kids that also has a wide range of STEAM-based activities from, I saw sixth graders looking at it, they didn't know it, but they were looking at a wiring diagram, trying to make a light bulb work on a Monday afternoon. Oh, like, yeah, this is how you do this. And in my head, I can see where this builds and where they're going. From the kid's perspective, this is really cool, look at all the neat things I can do. And then getting that momentum and transitioning it. We do offer a lot of that, and the robotics is still in its infancy. I do think some programmatic changes are going to make that program explode.
like when we look at like schools that are doing FIRST robotics, like really, right, like on Prospect Mountain or something like that, like it is multi-age teams, like and it's like they're in there for so many different reasons. So like I understand the nostalgia factor for like, oh wow, like everyone did, but there are opportunities within the building, not even then SSC on top of it, for kids who are inclined to like work project-based. This project-based learning is what it really is.
Yeah.
And those are two really good-sized rooms, cleaning out some of the tools and saving what you need. I could really picture those being exciting spaces of kids doing all sorts of different parts of
21st
robotics.
century industrial
Yeah.
technology, but like more, like
Yeah.
broader
3D printers at some
spectrum
point,
as opposed
and,
to
you know,
having
To go
yeah.
from that design build model, because there's
Yeah.
two different components for like, if you look at the Lego robotics, there's a design build, so teaching those skills, which are so important. And then the brick is the actual coding. And through 8th grade, it gets the kids ready for Python when they hit high school. But also, I think what would be really neat is to be able to offer, when I'm always thinking about like equity within our school and recognizing that not all students want to be on a Lego or a robotic competition team. But I was in a former school that we were able, because it was so huge, we were able to offer 2 clubs. We offered just kind of the Lego design build robotic club where kids, and then the other club was our competition team club. And that's where they learn those collaboration skills. We talk about the soft skills, but what our kids need when they leave here to be successful, productive workers in our society. And that's where they actually hone in on those collaboration skills and listening to one another and working. That's what FIRST is all about. They're presented with a task, and then they have to work together to solve that problem. And I mean, it just strengthens our schools and their critical thinking and collaboration and problem solving.
We could apply for some grants for robotics.
There's so many.
Sorry.
There's so many STEM grants.
Yeah.
Spend some of my planning time.
Well, I do think
When
that
I'm
is.
not in meetings.
That is worth noting, by the way, because the funding for STEAM-related technology-based stuff is out there. The woodworking, that component has high value, no question about it, but there isn't, the funding would have to be local, it would be on us, and it wouldn't necessarily be heading to an outcome that is going to benefit the whole school program. I think that's the challenge.
And I think the other thing about STEAM, and just speaking from my experience at the elementary level, is that in addition to not being restrictive, like the traditional industrial arts, it has a giant umbrella, but it also can take some things away from the other classroom teachers or off their plates in a good way. So, you know, I don't know a 4th grade teacher that ever is not teaching measurement in April right before the FAST, because they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't get the measurement, it's not big. And so you find ways to incorporate that in a meaningful way. So you have kids, learning how to use a ruler because they're measuring, whatever it is that they created or built. And then in science as well, you have so many NGS standards that if you can pull a little bit off their plates, that it makes everybody kind of have a more effective teaching experience. And you get to have so much more fun. Yeah, it means something.
Go to the next slide. Oh, you did. Hey, nice. So obviously, one of the things that motivated this, we had some conversation about this at the budget workshop. We've also gotten some community feedback wanting us to carefully consider the future of the industrial arts traditional shop model. And so obviously, there are things we should consider. And so obviously, there is one end of the continuum is, okay, we have a space that is designed for a traditional wood shop model. We could, on the one end of the continuum, we could start that up again, as Andy has explained. In order to do it in a meaningful way, it requires about 0.6 FTE to be able to have at least one offering at the high school and something in the Unified Arts block. Dave, would you mind coming up for a sec? Because one of the things that I asked Dave to do was to take a look at some of the facilities issues. So one thing we talked about was the idea of inspecting and maintenance and so forth, because obviously this equipment hasn't been used in a few years. Would you talk about that for just a second, so what that might involve?
Well, there is a listserv of all facilities directors and managers in the state of New Hampshire, and I sent an email out to that entire group saying, do you know of anybody who'd be willing to come in, inspect this equipment, make sure it's safe, it's ready to go? I got one response, and that was the teacher doesn't. So I'm having a very hard time even finding anybody. We talk to wood shops, we talk to rental places, you know, who inspects your equipment? You can find nobody who wants to come in and inspect it. It would really be on the teacher. Who cares what these things.
So with that, the estimate that we have here was a wild guess, let's be honest. It's $10,000, we figured that, because you're going to have to go through and look at every piece of equipment and do whatever it needs to be done to make it safe. So that was a cost. And then as Andy has, it's comparable in terms of supply needs to some of our art courses or our FCS courses. And so typically $12,000 to $15,000 a year in supplies is pretty typical. So if we were to say, let's restart exactly what that space was built for, that's kind of the minimum that you'd have to think about. The other end of the continuum is kind of what has been happening in the last couple of years, which is to say, okay, let's go down this STEAM industrial technology model and really dive into it. You know, one of the advantages is we have current staff that already have the training and credential to be able to continue to do it. The teaching space that is needed doesn't need to be equipped quite as precisely as this one. And then obviously, as we talked about, there's grant funding out there that is really trying to push people in that direction. Now, those are the two ends of the continuum, but obviously, we can do what Newmarket wants to do. And so there's any number of variables in between there. One of the things that Andy and I and one of his very knowledgeable staff members, so I won't name him by name because might call him out, but who is a person who has a lot of expertise in this realm and is also one of our teachers. We spent some time kind of batting around ideas of what could be. You want to just step up and just briefly talk about some of the ideas that were.
Yeah, so we cornered him, had a conversation. He's willing. And it was actually really productive. We threw things at him like classic birdhouse, clocks, a lot of hand-build stuff that was, buy the kit and follow the directions. As a former science teacher, that just feels wrong, like a recipe. The point here is to engage the kids and have an authentic experience. Even that, he was concerned, which is where the time component came up pretty quickly. Also, if the goal and the mission of the space is to inspire kids to continue on, how building a birdhouse quickly is going to get you to want to build that around that chair later on and become a master carpenter. It didn't really make a ton of sense. His big concerns were the authenticity of the work. We can build birdhouses and do clocks and spoons and wood carving if that's what you want, but that didn't feel like an appropriate use of the space of time. And it certainly didn't feel like it was going to inspire anyone to continue on to a further elective.
But the short of it is, if we wanted something like that, it could be done.
Could be done,
but
yes.
it's just maybe doesn't fit into the continuum we're currently on.
No, and it feels to be honest, feels more like a placeholder to fill a gap. It doesn't feel like it's not coming from anywhere. There's no elementary version of that, and there's no real high school pathway that gets to. So it doesn't really. It feels just like a complete outlier to me.
Yeah. And then, someone have the clicker? Yeah. Want to go to the? So Dave, I asked Dave and his team to do an inventory of, and this is, I hope people can read it. It was a lot of detail, but we put it into one slide. But this gives you the kind of the cost breakdown. You want to kind of just run through the process you went through and everything?
We went, looked at each piece of equipment, got manufacturer name models, and then we basically went to eBay and places like that to see. So this is not pricing for new. This is what people are selling what people are asking for that equipment.
And I did the math of the whole, it's just a little bit under $250,000 worth of equipment. You'll notice the most significant is the AirX dust collection system, which is the vast majority of the cost. And if you look at that space, what makes it a shop space for the most part is the installation of that ventilation system, which is a fabulous ventilation system if you're using tools that produce a lot of sawdust and that kind of thing. So there's no question it was necessary if that's what you're going to use it for. I think the question is that what we're going to provide our kids moving forward? Any other thoughts on the inventory?
How sellable that equipment, right? That air dust collection system.
That's a unique item.
It's not easily sold. It's a very unique item, and it's custom made to fit that space. So we can sell half of it that's outside, but the ductwork, the makeup air, a lot of that system is a very tough sell.
Yeah.
Todd, can you remind me, when we did built the high school, the renovation, how much money did we actually put into that room?
It was around $500,000, but we'd have to go back and take a close look at it. I'm just going to be honest with you, which I always try to do, by the way.
Thank you.
And I don't think we had people in the education side of the equation involved in the discussion, in the planning of the design of the wood shop. Because in 2017, 18, 19, when this was being planned, the world had already moved in the direction that we're describing to you.
Right.
And I think a more multi-purposeful design could have been had, because the nature of the program we've run in the last 14 years has not required the level of ventilation that is in that space. I mean, certainly aspirationally, it seems like, gee, let's hope, build it and they will come, that kind of a thing. I think at some point we have to have the conversation, is that where we want to go, and what do our kids want? And I clearly the kids are not coming in droves to take advantage of that program. There is a certain logic, because I've been through this process in other areas. Subjects like industrial technology are very personality driven, and certainly there could be an argument to be made, if you can find the right person who wants to make a woodworking traditional shop exciting to kids, you might be able to rebuild a program and create demand. But I think when you look at the world at large right now, the technology side of the equation is really where more people are going. In fact, we've had, at SST, the conversations we had last year around expanding offerings in electrical programs. We had conversation about cybersecurity, those kinds of things. That's, if you're looking for ways to engage kids in the sort of the plan, build, design process, there are other ways to do it. So, with that, does the board have any questions about what we're currently doing, or?
Thank you. A lot of work that obviously
I would recommend at some point in the near future that Stephanie Clary and Laura Bascom come in and spend some time. They would love to come in and tell you about the program that they're doing, because I really think they're taking the kids where they want to go, and it's pretty exciting.
Laura does the Maker's Empire program for 3D building and 3D printing, and it was when my son was in second grade, and he would not stop talking about it. I was like, what is this? And then the next year I brought the same program to my own school, which, again, kids love, and they're building all kinds of stuff, but it's almost like, they're like, well, we play all these really fun games when we build stuff. And then it turns into that, is it 3D printable? And you actually pull it out for them, and they're amazed that they've been able to create something like that.
So just to bring closure to the topic, at the board workshop, you had kind of directed Dave, Andy, and I to kind of come up with some plans to move forward. I'd like to suggest that we come to you with a proposal for a plan to move forward, and allow you to react to it.
Sounds fantastic. I do need to apologize. Apparently, I skipped public correspondence, which reminded me of, during this discussion, we did have some correspondence from a couple of members of the community regarding the industrial arts program, and that one person's student was upset that they didn't have that opportunity, and that other people were interested in trying to ensure that we had that program. So I just wanted to mention that. Apologize for not doing it earlier. All right, moving right along. We are in discussion items. For discussion, we said policy first reads EFAA and ACF. Dan or Phil, is there anything you want to?
And so EFAA is revisions to the school lunch program meal changes. You have the red line in our packet. I think pretty straightforward. changes there. The food, ACF is Food Nutrition Services Anti-Discrimination Civil Rights Complaints. That's new. I don't know, Todd, do you want to get some like?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a continuation of our Title IX work. It's a required policy that we did not have, and I know Jana is prepping for, help me remember what it's called. The administrative review, thank you, of the food service program, and wanting to make sure all of the policies we need to have are in place. And so this is one that would be great to have in place ASAP. And all it really does is deal with who do you contact if you have a discrimination complaint regarding the food service program.
Thank you. And it looks like we do have some R documents.
They're like the forms, right?
Yeah. Yeah, those were all, when we presented the Title IX changes, there were 4 policies that required procedural guidance in terms of a form to fill out to make a complaint. And basically, I just wanted you to see them. You've already approved the policy. You don't need to approve the Rs, but these are the forms that are now going to be attached to those.
Okay. Then we do have some donations to acknowledge. First of which is NCEP. Again, being very generous, $219 donation for a Pasco cart. I'm going to assume everyone knows what that is, since I don't. Does anyone know what a Pasco cart is?
Does anybody know what a Pasco?
Science cart. Pasco.
Pasco.
It's a cart for physical science. So it's a sensor, Pasco is a software program.
Oh, okay. Yep. Thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. And the second donation is the Community Children's Fund. Apologize, I have not read this in advance. There is a donation for somewhere down here for $500 with this specific purpose. I didn't see that.
Community Children Fund?
Yeah, it can basically be used for anything that involves
Clothing.
addressing, student
Yep.
needs, winter mittens, whatever it is.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on, heading to action items. Looks like we have some removed policies. And do we have any second reads of this? Are they all withdrawals?
Now, these are all just withdrawals. Just to remind you, we went through quite a process of updating our Title IX policies, and these are the ones recommended by the School Board Association for withdrawal. Most of them are tied to things that have changed with regards to those Title IX changes, and the rest of them are just outdated because they're not needed anymore. A lot of them are just simple R documents that we no longer need.
All right, I seek a motion to withdraw the recommended policies as presented.
moved.
Second.
By Phil, second by Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Gesundheit?
Right into the microphone.
Seek a motion to approve the October 3rd public and non-public minutes. Motion by Phil, there's a second. Second by Dan. Discussion? Corrections? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I think we have another great field trip, out-of-state field trip for the band and choir. We're going to the Great East Festival field trip. Let's seek a motion to approve that field trip.
So moved.
Motion by Amy. Second by Lonnie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd seek a motion to approve the RFP for Hussey Seating of $9,965 and Masonry Unlimited for $91,500.
So moved.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Amy. Any discussion? Just thank you again, Dave, for all your work. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He'll watch it on TV.
He's probably at home watching it right now.
I'm sure he is. We already approved the memorial bench. We have manifests.
I moved to approve the manifest in the amount of $2,391,771.81.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Phil, second by Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
He does, so eloquent.
I was born to read manifesto. I'll have her calling.
And do we have some coaching nominations, which is a bit disheveled,
Yeah.
distorted in my screen. Do you have?
Cover
Yeah.
those
Do you have those? You can read there.
Yep. Want me to read the code? Okay, so coaching nominations, Nick Farrer, boys varsity basketball, Randy Edgerly, girls varsity basketball, Alex Cheek, boys JV basketball, Blake Neri, indoor track, Mickey Burns, swimming and diving, Jay LaBranch, boys middle school basketball, Brenda Bunfakum, girls middle school basketball, Courtney Doucette, unified basketball, Stan Jerkois, varsity baseball, Todd Berry, varsity softball, Megan Suvanasang, JV softball, Blake Neri, outdoor track, and Dave Burke, middle school softball. Those were all the coaching nominations. And then do you want me to give the other items that were in that
Sure.
memo? Yeah, they're also, we had a pair requesting to leave without pay in March, and because it's in the contract that the board has to approve any unpaid leave for paras only, but nonetheless, I put that on your agenda to approve. And we have two staff members who have requested leave of absences for medical reasons.
I seek motion to approve the personnel items as presented.
So,
Second. Motion by Phil, second by Dan. Any discussion?
Thank you for all the coaches, particularly the community volunteers, stepping up to take on these teams. It's a big commitment, so we appreciate it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, with that, I do not believe we have a non-public. Is that in order?
I don't have one unless if you want one.
Does anybody want a non-public? No?
No.
All right, with that, reminder, the next meeting is on November 21st, and don't forget the spaghetti dinner on the 14th. With that, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Motion by Phil, second by Amy. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Good night, thank you. With that, we're adjourned at